A new book is out called Profiting from the World's Economic Crisis, and it's written by our guest, Bud Conrad. This is all about finding investment opportunities by tracking global market trends. Bud Conrad, by the way, is the chief economist at Casey Research and has been a futures investor for 25 years, as well as a full-time investor for more than a decade. He holds an MBA from Harvard and an electrical engineering degree from Yale. He has had positions with IBM, CDC, Omdahl, and Tandem, and Bud Conrad has a very comprehensive picture of the world's economy based on a career of using long-term fundamental analysis. His new book, Profiting from the World's Economic Crisis, is a very interesting read. Bud, thanks for being here.
Oh, it's great to be here. Thank you, Gabe.
The world's economic crisis, isn't it over?
Well, I like to use the title that we've given to our new conference that'll be giving in Las Vegas next weekend at the Four Seasons Hotel, and what we're calling it is the eye of the storm. You certainly know that a hurricane, when it comes through, can blow like heck, and if you're right over the center of the path of it, right in the middle, because it's a spiral swirling, you might even find blue sky for a while. And then, of course, the winds shift, go the other direction, and blow just as bad as they came through the first time. And the reasons I call that the eye of the storm right now is that we do have some real recovery. It came because the government came in and bailed out all the banks, all the General Motors, the various other institutions to the tune of several $1 trillion. You can count $1.5 trillion out of the deficit of the government this year and $1.5 trillion out of the Federal Reserve. You got $3 trillion thrown at our $14 trillion economy. You would expect some improvement, and we have some.
You know, Jim Rogers, the great portfolio manager on the back of your book with an endorsement, says someone is going to make money in the next decade. Perhaps Bud will help you find your way. Bud Conrad, where can we profit from the world's economic crisis?
Well, let me get a little more specific about this eye of the storm, and then you'll see the logic. It will be quite obvious. We just had too much debt, and therefore had a debt bubble.
Right, we know that. We know that now, and we're seeing it happen. Sort of cascading now. We've got the relief rally here that just fizzled after Greece folded its bad poker hand, as someone said recently, which is down part of the situation. The problem has spread to Portugal. It's Spain's problem. It's Germany's problem. It's a contagion. So we know about the debt bubble. So what do you do?
Let me explain it a little more, slice through it a little more closely, Gabe. We had a private debt bubble, mostly housing mortgages, that collapsed, and we're about to have a government debt bubble. And the result of that is different. Exactly. They are a bellwether of what's to come. I hear music.
You were laying the groundwork for the next big problem, the next big crisis, and then we're going to talk about profiting from the world's economic crisis.
Yes.
And you're saying that now it's the government bond.
Mm-hmm. What?
Now it's not government debt that is likely to default.
Exactly. We just had too much private debt, which was then, in many cases, purchased by the government, taking over Fannie Mae, taking over the banks, giving a huge amount of stimulus to the housing community by the Federal Reserve buying $1.5 trillion of mortgage-backed securities and agency debt. And the government and the Federal Reserve now own that toxic waste.
Yeah.
That's typical, that when you have a banking crisis, a government goes in and bails out, expanding its own debt, and then it becomes the risky holder of the bad debt. And when the government loses the confidence in what it's doing of issuing, its debt becomes the potential crisis of the future. And that's where we are right now. It hasn't happened, but when foreigners say, no mas, we're not going to take more of your paper dollars, then the interest rates rise, the quality of the currency decreases in relationship to all their alternatives, purchasing power declines, and you have a currency crisis. And we're on the cusp of that second bust going forward, and that'll be the other side of the hurricane on the outside of the eye of the storm.